Hi, and welcome to the Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. I'm your host, Irene Duford, and today I have a very special guest. His name is RJ Baxter. He is from the Colorado market. He's a loan originator, an amazing person, an amazing loan originator, and I'd like to welcome him to the podcast. So welcome, RJ.
Thanks a lot, Irene. I'm happy to be here.
I am so excited that you're on our podcast today. I have been waiting for us to get a time together where we could talk, because for those of you listening, you know that I coach in the Freedom Club. I coach loan officers, and RJ joined the Freedom Club. He is one of our OGs because he joined the Freedom Club when we were doing our beta test, and that was 11 years ago. Can you believe that, RJ?
I can't, and it's gone so fast, but at the same time, it's been, such a learning experience through the years.
Yes. So RJ was one of the lucky ones, right? I would say lucky ones that Carl chose to be in our beta test group. When we first started the Freedom Club, we did a beta test and we wanted to make sure that it was going to work and that we had people that were committed, and we were also able to coach them and get success. And so RJ was one of those people, one of the 6 original people in the Freedom Club. So tell us about your experience in that, RJ.
Well, you say joined the Freedom Club, but really I was accepted or chosen. So, I felt really special to be a part of the beta group. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was ready. I remember when I first joined, one of the stipulations was you had to have an assistant, and I didn't have an assistant. So I was given 30 days to find an assistant, and I completely did it wrong, learned a lot of things, and have moved on to building a team in a much smarter and wiser way through the help of the Freedom Club. But back then it was just, I don't even know if we called it the Freedom Club, but it was just, there was actually 7 of us, I think, back then. And
yes,
we just got together and met each other and shared ideas. That was pretty much all there was to it.
Yeah. And we did the one-on-one coaching, and then we got together with Carl, and he did a call every couple of weeks, remember? And we would all get together. Yep. And we had a Facebook group, and it was just those 7 people in that group. And it was a fun way to get started. We were kind of testing the waters to see how it went. And then at the end of the 90 days. So what kind of improvement did you see in your business just with the beta test back then?
I remember intentionally getting out there and starting to do things that I wasn't before, because I was pretty much a refi loan officer before, calling internet leads, didn't know really a better way to do it. And just that little bit of being around other people that were committed to success early on there gave me enough to just kind of get the wheels going and start doing some different things to get out there and make relationships. And I remember seeing a pretty significant increase in business just in the first 90 days.
Yes, it was amazing. There was 188% increase in pipelines, and there was really good closings as well. I had to keep track of it. I promised Carl I would track it 100%. And so we have all the stats, and they were pretty amazing stats. But that's because you guys were committed to doing it. And I know for sure you were committed. And all these years later, you're still in the Freedom Club. And I am so proud of that. I'm so proud of you for everything that you've done. You invested in yourself, because after that first 90-day trial run, that was free, right? You didn't pay for that. Mm-hmm. And then we said, okay, who wants to join? And you and all except one person got out of the mortgage business, wasn't quite the right fit for what he wanted, but everyone else joined and started in the Freedom Club. And you are still here today. And I think it's amazing the commitment that you have made to stick with it. Something, I remember one day, I don't know if you remember saying this, but you said to me, I'll always be in the Freedom Club. That's not something I'm ever going to not be part of. And I'm excited for you. Throughout all these 10 years, I was able to one-on-one coach you. I've been able to watch your kids grow up. I've been able to meet your wife, to see what you have accomplished in your business. It's been amazing. So tell us a few things that were goals of yours when you first started coaching, and what you ended up doing with some of those goals. And I don't mean number goals. I'm talking about things that you wanted to accomplish that you feel like you've gotten a pretty good handle on over the last 10 years, 11 years?
Yeah, I mean, there was some key things. Like one was that life balance that that's where the name came from, Freedom Club. And I didn't have that. I remember way back, I don't know how long ago this was, 9 years ago, maybe. We were at Disney World with the family. My kids were little, and I spent literally every time we were waiting in line for a ride, I was on my phone, making calls, responding to emails, trying to close loans. I still hadn't figured out the team building thing at that point. I remember being up at the hotel until 1 in the morning working on stuff, and then getting up the next day and being exhausted. And that trip stands out in particular as a moment in time where I said there has to be a better way, and I have to figure this out as far as the team building. So that was one of my big goals, to figure out how to build a team, how to do things in a smarter way so that I could focus on those things that are the most important. Not that business isn't important, but I just realized how fast my kids were going to grow up, and now they're 16 and 15 and almost out of the house. So I feel very fortunate to have found the Freedom Club and to learn ways to do that, because otherwise I would have probably still been doing that even today. So the team building goes hand in hand with that. The other big one was establishing relationships that would lead to long-term sustained business, so that I wouldn't be on the roller coaster.
And you've done that really well. So you have a podcast. Yeah. So tell us about your podcast.
So it's called Real Estate Agent Superstars. And I basically have conversations with top producing agents about what they're doing to be successful. And
that's awesome.
We just got to go in this year, and it's been just really awesome. It's been a great way to meet new agents and to deepen those relationships with the ones that I already knew before the podcast. And it's been awesome.
That is so great. And I've heard a couple of the episodes. They're awesome. And you're highlighting agents that are doing things that are successful in their business. And so you're helping everybody, because then people get tips from that as well. That is so great.
That's right. Yeah.
And I love the way you have put your team together. I love the way, I know that you've been through a few people, right? Everyone is, all the loan officers. You're not going to find, very rarely will you find the right one the first time you try, right? You're going to have to go through a few people, and it's okay, but you learn a lot during that time. So tell us what you've learned as you've built your team, like how to hire, who to hire, how to keep them on or not keep them on, depending on what they do.
Yeah, I mean, those are good questions. That's a lot of questions right there. But one thing I've learned is to hire slow, and to take your time, to not just hire anybody. Like going back to when I first joined the Freedom Club and I was told that I had to have an assistant within 30 days. I mean, I just put ads out there and hired whoever with no plan at all with what they were going to do. And it was a complete disaster. So I learned the hard way there. I've also learned with other people I've hired that I've maybe been too anxious to hire, or maybe hiring out of a place of desperation that I needed someone because I was so overwhelmed. I've learned that that's not the smartest way. It's better to take your time and to really make sure you vet the person and really know who they are, and that they, a big thing is that they share the same values as you and kind of march to the same drumbeat, because you're going to be working intimately with this person. So it's important that you have the same kind of mindset and the same work ethic, and that you hire someone that has those values that you value, so they fit into your team well, because that chemistry is so important. I've hired people that were not good on the chemistry, and it messed up the entire team, not just my relationship with them. But another thing I've learned is to define what they're going to do, which is super important. Like something we do in the Freedom Club called the Acts of Freedom, and taking all the stuff you do throughout the day and figuring out which things you could delegate to that next person that you hire, and who does what within your business. That can really help to bring in the focus as to who you're going to hire. I found that's been super important with hiring. Now, lately, this is 2023, we've actually had to let some people go, but I've also done that in a I think, a wise way or a systematic way to make sure that we're still efficient with the people that we do have.
Mm-hmm. And the people that you have are the top-notch people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My main production partner, loan partner, has been with me now. I think it's 6 years, maybe 7 years.
That's so amazing. And we had
So
the honor of training him when we came. You
yeah,
invited us to, so the loan team training business, you invited us to Denver, and we were able to have an event there. That was a few years ago, quite a few years ago.
yeah,
And you had your team there, and he was in that training. He's amazing. He's a great loan partner.
yeah, yep. He's committed, hardworking. He just gets it done. And I've learned also to trust and to allow, him to do what he's going to do. And he's human. He makes mistakes sometimes, and I do too. And we just work through it, and he gets better because of it. He's committed to being better every day, just like I am. So
Yes.
that really helps.
That helps a lot. So did he have the experience that you were looking for when you hired him, or did you train him mostly in the loan part of it?
I don't, at the time, I don't know if he did, or I thought he didn't, but I think he had the exact right experience because he was about 1 year in the business at the time. So he'd been trained on the basics. So he knew how to take a loan application. He knew some basic loan programs. He knew a little bit, like he knew how to price a loan, that kind of stuff. That's actually, I think, perfect because he didn't have very many bad habits at that point. He just
Yeah.
knew enough to be dangerous, I guess you could say, and then I could mold him into what I wanted. So looking back, it was a genius hire at that point in his career, but I don't know if I knew that at the time. But that's what I think is the best of all worlds. If someone else has already trained the basics, and then you can bring them in and train them to your process.
Yes. And I like that because like you said, I agree with you 100% that a big part of it, yes, they need to know the business. They need to know how to do things in the loan business, but you need to have somebody that is on the same page as you in the way you look at things, how you talk to clients, how you treat clients, how you work with referral partners. All of that needs to be, you guys need to be in sync, right? With all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more important than
Absolutely.
anything because they catch your vibe, they know how you work with people, and they're on the same page and want to serve the clients and the referral partners just as much as you do. So that's a big one. In training, when we do the training for loan partners, we do our WOW training. We teach them that. We talk about how important it is that they're on the same page as the loan officer, that they're there to support the loan officer and help the business to grow and give amazing white glove service, wow service to the clients and to the referral partners. And in order to do that, they have to be on the same page as the loan officer. And so who you hire really matters. Yeah. It
Well,
really
I'll have to say your training was pivotal for him. It made a huge difference with the job he did. I mean, it wasn't where he instantaneously changed, but he had more of that framework or mindset of what we were really looking for, and he understood what we're doing in the Freedom Club and how he could best support me. So he took that and he used that to get better and better through the years, and now it's just like I trust him with everything. Realtors typically will call him directly, so I'm not having to deal with the day-to-day, hey, send me a pre-approval letter or whatever it is. I'm able to focus on things that help to build the business more.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for that feedback because it's really good to know when they implement. It's one thing to train someone on something. It's so much better when me as a trainer can hear that they're implementing what they learned. That's why I do it. Because, RJ, I don't know if I've told you this, but I was never trained in the mortgage business. When I became a mortgage originator back in 97, you didn't have to have a license in Arizona. All you had to do was basically just join a company and they were training you. Well, my broker that I joined with, he promised me training and he didn't give me any training. I couldn't tell what a good faith was. I mean, I was trying to find out information and they didn't have training courses and things like they do now back then. And so I have this passion to train people to do certain things because I didn't have that. And it's important that people have a place they go. In our training, as you know, you get a copy of the workbook and they're able to go back to the workbook anytime they want to and freshen up on what they learned. And you as a loan officer can take little bits and pieces of those things and review it with them as time goes on. So I appreciate that feedback. We love doing the training, and it's been so great to know that we're helping the support staff of the loan officer, helping them and helping the loan officer to grow your business. Because when you trust him, you don't have to sit and wonder whether things are getting done. You can go out and really build the business.
Exactly. And it's kind of like when a parent tells their kid something or tries to help them with something, and the kid doesn't want to listen. And and then the coach tells them the same thing, or the teacher explains the same thing, and then they listen to that person, the third party.
Uh-huh.
I think it was a little bit like that, because I was trying to teach all this stuff to Kyle, and he when he took your course, that's when I think it really clicked for him, to have that third party coach helping him to understand what it is I was trying to explain and the things I was trying to bring.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I've heard that before, that it is true. What we do is basically just let them know from a different voice what you want them to know, but don't have time to really spend with them training, right? Because that's what I've noticed. The biggest thing is loan officers don't have time to do this kind of training. It's very detailed, deep training. And we have, of course, 3 different classes. The one that Kyle went to was the WOW training, which is a live course. Back then we were doing it in person. Now we're doing it on Zoom, but it's basically just telling them all of the things to deliver a wow experience. And you, as a loan officer, you're busy doing other things. You don't have time to do that kind of training. That's what it is. A lot of people don't have time. They know how to do it. Do you have a loan partner who does the loan consultations, structures the loan, and converts the buyer to work with you? Or maybe you have a loan partner who you would like to move to that position so that you can be freed up to go get even more loans. How about a newer loan officer who could benefit from some training in how to convert buyers to work with them? Our client conversion training is very specific to this role. It will help them convert even more clients to work with you and your team. Here is what we cover, at least some of what we cover. How to have clients that regularly say, yes, I want to work with you. Learn emotional intelligence and how to connect with clients on a deeper level right from the first conversation. Increase confidence. Discover the key to a successful mindset. Memorize scripts, dialogues, and we'll do it with live role play. Set your team apart from other loan officers. Build trust with clients. Win over the rate shoppers. Get more referrals each month. Answer objections from clients with confidence. Structure ideas to give clients great options to build wealth through real estate. Present different loan options clearly and effectively. Master the buyer loan consultation. Know the value of communication and follow-up. Build a great rapport with your team. Our next client conversion training class starts Thursday, April 13th, 2023. It's a virtual interactive class on Zoom with live trainers, and your team members can attend from wherever they are. As long as they have audio and video, everyone participates. It's a 10-hour live class divided into 4 2.5-hour sessions from 9 to 11:30 Pacific time on Thursday and Friday for 2 weeks in a row. Sign up your loan partner at loanteamtraining.com. You'll find the class on the Client Conversion Training tab. You were a teacher before you got into the mortgage business, right? So you're a perfect trainer, but do you have time?
No, and not time to do it right, for sure. I mean, that's one of the big things I hear from people is they don't have time to hire someone. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Which is true, but you don't have time to not hire someone at the same time too.
Exactly.
So, looking back on it, like when I hire my next person, I'll send them to your training, because then I don't have to sit there and do that all with them. They come back ready to go and they know what to do.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I appreciate that. Now, one thing that you and I work together a lot on, and I do with everybody that I coach and with the people that we train in the training company, is having the right mindset, right? it's the key to setting and reaching your goals and living life to the fullest, right? So tell us a little bit how we work together on self-talk and what you've done with your self-talk. And let's talk about what is self-talk?
Well, it's basically what you tell yourself, what you talk to yourself about. So
imagine that.
Yeah. And I've heard the saying that for every, what is it? For every negative, you need 5 positives, like when you're talking to someone else or to yourself. And I think it's so true. And like, it comes back to the Freedom Club and being around positive, like-minded people. I mean, that's kind of like, even though it's just being around other people, that's kind of like self-talk, like, oh, well, I'm one of these people, I'm amongst people that are like me. I'm a successful person. It's interesting because I listened to your podcast recently with Shad. What's Shad's last name?
Helmstetter, Dr. Shad Helmstetter.
Yes. Which was excellent. It kind of reminded me to get back in, because I wasn't intentionally doing the self-talk, and to get back in that mode of, I'll just play it kind of in the background. I'm not even really listening to it every morning for a little while. And it's made a huge difference, but I've just really had to work with myself over the years. And it's been one of the big reasons why I've achieved levels of success that I didn't think I would get to, because the self-talk was definitely not good during the housing crisis. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Before I got in the Freedom Club, it was a lot different back then.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to know that you've taken it and worked with it and been intentional. And when we talk about self-talk, for those listeners that may not know what we're talking about, exactly, is there was a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. And I picked that book up a long time ago and really worked on saying the right things to myself. That's really what it is. And he was a guest on our podcast. We were lucky enough to have him as a guest on our podcast recently. So you might go to that episode to listen to what it's really all about. But what I wanted to hand off to the listeners today is an app called selftalkplus.com, or it's a website and it's also an app. And you can listen to ready-made self-talk with different topics. And Dr. Shad Helmstetter pretty much coaches you, gives you a lot of ideas about different things that you can do to be positive and to listen to self-talk, because we call that the language of success. It's the language of success instead of the language of failure. And what we say to ourselves really matters. So I'm glad, RJ, that you've rekindled that desire to listen to self-talk every day. It makes a big difference, doesn't it? When you're listening intentionally to the right things.
Yeah. I mean, my mindset has changed since 2012 when the Freedom Club started, where I believe I'm a top loan originator, and I've become that. And I believe that realtors it would benefit realtors to work with me, and they should work with, and these kinds of things, instead of going into meetings thinking, oh, I hope they'll work with me, I'm not doing any business or whatever it is. I mean, it's just a different mindset. I'm going to the meetings with, I'm the prize.
Exactly.
So the self-talk has been a huge thing. I think it goes down to just how I carry myself from day to day.
Yes. So RJ, knowing what you know now, if you could go back and do things over again, what's one thing that you would do differently that would help you more now, knowing what you know now, that like you could give a word of advice for loan officers, something that you would do differently?
So I would say the biggest thing for me is going after those relationships with real estate agents, with other partners, and it goes back to the self-talk, because I didn't believe early on that I was worthy, that I wasn't good enough to have those relationships. And what I found is it's really just doing it and doing that self-talk that we talked about, believing that you are important enough, you are good enough, that you're the prize, that they're lucky to work with you. And to be consistent on those calls, like we talked about also, and just work hard to establish those relationships, because it definitely pays off over time. And it takes time. It's something that takes that consistency, but really it's just, if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it'd be that you are good enough, and to go after those relationships. For
That's
8 years. Yeah, for 8 years, I just bought internet leads because I didn't think I was good enough. And then when I found the Freedom Club, it changed everything for me.
yeah. So how would you do that though? If you were to go back and do it differently, would you do it by meeting with them? How would you do it? Calling them?
I mean, there's a lot of ways. That's a tough question because you can call people. You can meet agents through transactions. That's a great way.
Yes.
Even if you're a refi loan officer, you have a couple purchases probably going,
Mm-hmm.
ask those agents to go out for a cup of coffee and get to know them better. And then follow up with them after the coffee and ask them if they have buyers they're taking out that you can help them get pre-approved and establish a relationship that way. That's where a lot of my relationships came from, is from transactions that I was already doing.
Mm-hmm.
Or, another way is get involved with your realtor association or with leads groups, or there's just so many ways. But the key is just that consistent follow-up and just believing that you are good enough to work with those people.
Yes. And once they experience the amazing wow service that you give them, they're going to want to come back because they deserve it. And you deserve to have them as referral partners because they're amazing. Their clients are amazing and you're amazing. And it's important to remember that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So thank you so much, RJ, for being here today, sharing your story. It's going to help so many loan officers. And I know you're all about helping people. And, it's been really fun for me to come full circle from being your first coach 12 years ago. And then you had other, coaches within the Freedom Club. You went through a couple just to get a different variety. And then you came back, and I feel like we've gone for full circle now. So it's been really fun to watch your journey and to stay friends with you all 12 years. And can you believe in 12 years, I've actually watched your children grow up?
Yeah, it's just it's unbelievable it's been that long.
Yeah. So time goes really fast, but I just want you to know how much I appreciate you being here and taking your time. I know you're busy and you've got lots of loans in the pipeline right now and things are hopping. And I'm just grateful that you took time for us today. So thanks again for being here, and just want you to know how much I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too, Irene, and thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks. And so we appreciate you listening today. And I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate all of you listening that you spent it with us today. So if you've enjoyed this, please share it with other loan officers that you know. And if you feel like we deserve a 5-star review, we would sure appreciate one. That's going to help us get seen by more people. So thanks for being here. And you can go to loanteamtraining.com if you have any interest in any of our training classes. So have a great week, everybody.